Every story has a beginning, but what about the story of the story itself? Today, we're going to talk about the novel. And trust me, its own origin story is this incredible coming of age tale, full of birth, rebellion, and finally, growing up. Okay, let's get right into it. I mean, just think about it. We are absolutely drowning in stories today, right? They're on our screens, in our headphones, everywhere. But this whole massive world of storytelling, it really owes a huge debt to one single revolutionary format. So the big question is, where did this thing we call the novel even come from? Okay, so before we jump in the time machine, let's get our bearings. It's pretty simple. Imagine all writing is split into two giant categories. You've got nonfiction over here, that's the real world, facts, all that stuff. And then you've got fiction, the world of make-believe. And our guy, the novel, lives right there in the world of fiction. So what even was a novel back in the day? Well, the original definition seems almost too simple, a very long narrative in prose. But you have to understand, back in the 18th century, this was radical. See, most long stories were epic poems about gods and kings. This was different. This was just a long story, told in normal everyday language. And it was a total game changer for a growing middle class that was just learning to read and wanted stories that felt, a little more like their lives. All right, so that's the basic idea. But what's actually under the hood? What are the parts that make this whole story engine run? Let's take a look. Yeah, this here, it's basically the novel's DNA. At the center, you've got the main plot, right? That's the spine. But then you have all these subplots weaving around it with a whole cast of characters, and that's what makes the world feel so real and alive. And everything, I mean everything, is there to explore some bigger idea, a central theme, all seen through a particular point of view. It's that whole combination that creates this incredibly immersive experience that people had just never seen before. Okay, so we've got the building blocks. Now let's go back to the 18th century. The novel is basically a toddler at this point. It's just learned to walk, and like any toddler, it immediately starts running off in two totally opposite directions at once. So on one hand, you have the novel looking inward. We're talking deep dives into personal feelings, like in the book Pamela. These were often told through letters, which felt super intimate. This was perfect for readers who suddenly had more downtime and wanted to explore their own inner worlds. Then, on the complete other hand, you have the novel looking outward, big, grand adventures in faraway places like Robinson Crusoe. This totally tapped into the excitement of global exploration at the time. So you had this crazy split, internal feelings versus external adventure. All right, so after those toddler years, the novel hits its rebellious teen phase. We're in the late 18th, early 19th century, and like any teenager, it's not satisfied with the way things are. It's not enough to be just about feelings or adventure anymore. Now it wants to push every single button and explore the absolute extremes of what it means to be human. And first up, it gets a little goth. Seriously, the Gothic novel pops up, and it's all about horror, the supernatural, things that just don't make rational sense. We're talking creepy castles, mysterious events, a total sense of dread. And this isn't just some weird phase. This is the great-great-granddaddy of modern horror. Yeah, books like Frankenstein and Dracula, their DNA comes directly from this moment. But because it's a teenager trying on different outfits, the novel does a complete 180. It swings from all that supernatural chaos to the total opposite, the novel of manners. These books were obsessed with social rules, with who's marrying whom, with money, with status. It was all about how to fit into a very complicated society. And of course, the absolute queen of this was Jane Austen. So it's had its dark phase, it's had its preppy, socially obsessed phase. The novel has finally gotten all that out of its system, and now it's ready to grow up. We're in the mids to late 19th century now, the Victorian era, and the novel is entering its golden age. It's mature, it's confident, and it is ready to look at the messy, complicated modern world head on. And the mission statement for this whole new era? It's simple, but so powerful. Presenting reality as it is. No more escaping into fantasy or getting lost in the details of social rules. The whole point now was to capture reality, to hold up a mirror to the world in all its gritty, beautiful, complicated glory. This, my friends, was the age of realism. But here's the thing, realism wasn't just one type of story. It's much better to think of it like a powerful new camera lens. A writer could attach this realism lens and point it at anything in Victorian life and see it with this shocking new clarity. Whether it was what's going on inside someone's head or the new factories and ships of an empire, the novel had become the ultimate tool for making sense of it all. And I mean, just look at where they pointed that lens. You had psychological realism, which dug deep into the human mind. You had social realism, which put the entire class system under a microscope. Industrial realism showed what life was really like in those new cities and factories. And colonial realism started to wrestle with the huge, messy consequences of empire. Suddenly, there was nothing the novel couldn't tackle. It could do it all. So you see the journey, right? It started as just a long narrative, and then it grew up. It learned to explore our inner lives, our biggest adventures, our darkest fears, and our most complicated social rules, until it finally became this amazing tool for understanding reality itself. Which, of course, brings us to today and leaves us with a really big question. In our world of AI, virtual reality, and deep fakes, what does capturing reality even mean anymore? And what on earth will the novel's next coming-of-age story look like?